Hello, and thank you for joining me today. Well, this is the Wednesday, June the 10th edition of our video devotionals. Thank you so much for joining us today, and I hope your Wednesday's going well. It is the middle part of the work week, and that means that you're halfway through, only got one more half to go, if indeed you work Monday through Friday, so there that is. We have church time tonight, and I know for our county, I believe today's the last day of school for Randolph County here, North Carolina. So there that is. That's an exciting day for especially the students, but the teachers, and I guess for the parents to some degree. But at any rate, it is Wednesday, so we want to give you something here on this Wednesday that we believe will be of some help. Now, as I'm reading through the Bible, 1 year's time, I'm doing the Old Testament and the New Testament at the same time. Over in the book of Chronicles, where I was reading, 1 Chronicles 7 is pretty much just all genealogy type stuff and just a little bit there. So I said, I'm not going to give anything from that. But I'm here in John chapter 15, works out well because this is my favorite chapter of the Bible. We're going to look at verses 1 through 5, and we're going to do that momentarily. Otherwise, we want to say thank you for watching, comments, acknowledgments. Continue to pray for a couple of ladies we've kind of brought to your attention. One who attends our church, her health issues, if you would pray for her. And then another lady who's watched these for a long, long time, pray for her. She recently has had an accident. She's trying to recover from that. So if you can remember them, I know they would appreciate it, and that would be great. All right, so John 15:1 says this. Here's Jesus speaking. I am the true vine, and my Father is the husbandman. Every branch in me that beareth not fruit, he taketh away, and every branch that beareth fruit, he purgeth it, that it may bring forth more fruit. We're going to come back to that purging aspect there. Verse 3, now ye are clean through the word which I have spoken unto you. Abide in me, and I in you, as the branch cannot bear fruit of itself, except it abide in the vine. No more can ye, except ye abide in me. I am the vine, ye are the branches. He that abideth in me, and I in him, the same bringeth forth much fruit, for without me ye can do nothing. Powerful, powerful statements, especially in light of the fact we're talking about between the upper room experience and the Garden of Gethsemane, where Jesus would be arrested, and then, of course, go on to the trial, crucifixion, then of course the resurrection. But here we find some very, very powerful things being spoken, and Jesus speaking, he's the true vine, the Father is the husbandman, but we're the branches. Talks about in verse 2, talks about this purging process. Every branch that beareth fruit, he purgeth it, that it may bring forth more fruit. So that means if you're bearing some fruit, the Lord wants you to bear more fruit. All right. Well, that makes sense. I'll give you an illustration, a personal illustration here. I have a garden, and I've got some tomato plants in it. As I've been reading about how to take care of those tomato plants, I noticed something very interesting that we'll take a couple of verses here and apply it to that. Of course, if you're going to plant tomato plants, you want to have some tomatoes. And personally, I grew up eating a lot of tomato sandwiches. And especially in the summertime, we lived in a brick house. We had no air conditioning. My mother was pretty much deathly afraid of fires. We didn't even have those box fans you could put in the windows or sit down on the ground and blow on you. It was rough. I'll tell you that right now. But I remember that we ate things that if you didn't have to heat up the house, a tomato sandwich was a real good one. And so I love tomato sandwiches even to this day. So I love tomatoes. I want to get some tomatoes out of my tomato plant. So I was reading about taking care of those, and I noticed that those offshoots that are closest to the ground, they were saying if you cut those off, then that means there's less food, if you please, going to those particular parts of the plant versus going further up and actually going to the tomatoes themselves, in which you want to have big, nice, healthy tomatoes. That makes sense, right? The other thing I noticed was the fact that it said those offshoots, if they touch the ground, they're hanging on the ground, then they pick up disease, and that can be transferred to the rest of the plant. And indeed, I went in there and cut those off too, because they were sagging on the ground. Some were yellow, and you can tell they're not living anyway, or they're doing very poorly. So I'm trying to do what I can to have a healthy tomato plant so I can have more fruit, if you please, more tomatoes. So when you look at this, he purgeth it, that it may bring forth more fruit. Then he said, now ye are clean through the word which I have spoken unto you. No doubt, if we're taking in the words of God and we're clean, we're actually going to produce more for God than we would if we were dirty, so to speak, or diseased, even if you want to call it that. Kind of saying we need to be as spiritually right with God and spiritually healthy as we can. So that being said, we want to produce fruit for the Lord, okay? We want to produce just like you want to have a tomato plant that will produce or whatever you have. So that being said, think about that today as God has ordained us to bring forth fruit. And if you're bringing forth some, He wants us to bring forth more. And if we'll do that, that's pleasing. That's what He wants. And let's think about that today, okay? Have a great day, safe day, healthy day, Lord willing. We'll be back tomorrow. Thank you for watching.